You have been lying to yourself for years, and the uncomfortable truth is your bank account already knows it. You scroll past your paycheck notification with one hand and tap confirm purchase with the other, and somewhere in the back of your brain there is a voice that says it is fine, I deserve this. You got a raise last year, maybe two, and yet, and I need you to sit with this, your savings rate hasn't moved, not even a percentage point. That is not bad luck, that is not the economy. That is a chemical process happening inside your skull every single time you spend money, and it is running your financial life on autopilot while you think you are in the driver's seat. Here is what nobody in personal finance is willing to say out loud. For most people watching this, the problem is not your salary. The problem is that your brain has been engineered, yes, engineered to consume everything you earn. And a higher salary won't fix that. It never has. Every raise you have ever got, your lifestyle inflation absorbed it within 90 days like it never existed. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why that keeps happening down to the neuroscience. And you are going to have a 7-day framework to break the cycle without feeling deprived. Stay with me because there's also something I'm going to tell you about, a question to ask at your next salary conversation. And it has nothing to do with asking for a raise, but everything to do with your actual wealth-building momentum. Keep that in the back of your mind. There's a concept in behavioral economics called the hedonic treadmill. The idea is brutally simple. Every time your income rises, your brain recalibrates what normal feels like. The apartment you used to dream about becomes the apartment you are already bored with. The car you saved 3 years for starts feeling inadequate the moment a neighbor parks something newer outside. This is not a character flaw. This is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, chase the next level of stimulation. The problem is that modern marketing has learned to weaponize this exact mechanism against your net worth. Right now, AI-driven advertising systems are analyzing your spending habits in real time, identifying the millisecond your dopamine levels dip, and serving you a product designed to feel like a survival need, not a want. Your brain's scarcity circuits, the same ones that evolved to make you sprint toward food in a famine, are being fired by a notification about a 48-hour flash sale on sneakers. This is what I call the wage consumption spiral. Every income increase you earn is immediately matched, sometimes exceeded, by a new comfort floor your lifestyle locks in. And because that floor rises every time your salary does, your savings rate stays frozen at zero. You are running faster and faster on a treadmill that is accelerating beneath you. Here is where it gets measurably worse. Federal Reserve data confirmed that roughly 1 in 3 Americans earning over $100,000 a year still lives paycheck to paycheck. These are not poor people. These are people drowning in lifestyle inflation, what the research calls lifestyle creep, the quiet, relentless process of spending habits expanding to fill every inch of income available. The mechanism is biological. When you swipe your card, your brain releases dopamine, not when the package arrives, not when you use the product, when you commit to the purchase. The hit happens at checkout. That is why window shopping feels rewarding. That is why adding to cart relieves stress even when you never buy. Your brain has been conditioned to treat the act of spending as the reward, completely decoupled from the actual value of what you are buying. And here is the cognitive trap that personal finance almost never addresses. The higher your income climbs, the stronger this cycle becomes because the amounts feel less significant. A $300 impulse purchase feels harmless on a $90,000 salary in a way it never did on $45,000. The financial discipline muscles weaken precisely when the stakes get higher. Now I want to show you a comparison that should make you physically uncomfortable. Take two people. Person A earns $95,000 a year, gets consistent raises, spends liberally, new car, bigger apartment, premium subscriptions, frequent travel. Their savings rate hovers around 5%. Person B earns $62,000, moderate income, but they invest aggressively, 22% of every paycheck, non-negotiable. They build wealth through index funds and compound growth. At retirement age, Person A, the high earner, has roughly the same net worth as Person B, in many scenarios less. And Person B, the moderate earner, reaches financial independence a full decade earlier. A decade gone not because of the economy, not because of bad luck, because Person A kept upgrading their cage instead of building a door. That is lifestyle inflation in real numbers. That is the wealth building gap. And the investment education that could have closed it was never complicated, it was just buried under the noise of wanting more. The cage metaphor matters here because this is what spending addiction does that substance addictions don't get credit for. It is comfortable. Nobody hits a visible rock bottom. You just keep living in a slightly nicer cell, slightly more stressed, with a slightly higher credit card balance, telling yourself that the next raise is going to be the one that finally makes room. The real cost isn't the purchases. The real cost is the mathematical certainty that every dollar spent on comfort today is $7 to $10 of compounded wealth you will never see at 65. That is not a metaphor. That is a net worth calculation applied to real cash flow. Debt consolidation can help clean up the damage. Cash flow analysis can show you exactly where the money hemorrhages. Budgeting tools can draw the guardrails, but none of those tools fix the root mechanism, which is a brain wired to consume and a marketing machine designed to keep it consuming. Here is how lifestyle creep actually spreads, and it is not dramatic. It is a subscription that never gets canceled. It is the grocery upgrade from store brand to premium that became invisible after 3 months. It is the streaming services that multiplied from 1 to 4 because each one was just $10 a month. Each decision on its own is defensible. That is what makes lifestyle inflation so effective as a wealth destroyer. It is made of reasonable-sounding choices stacked on top of each other until the weight is unbearable. Meanwhile, the person living on $62,000 with no lifestyle creep is quietly watching their investment account compound month after month, not because they earn more, but because they never gave their comfort floor permission to rise. That gap is not income, it is financial discipline, and financial discipline is not about suffering, it is about refusing to hand your future to a dopamine reflex. So what does the comfort addict do at this point? Most people do one of two things. They feel guilty for a week, cut a few small expenses, declare they are being smarter with money now, and then get a raise 3 months later and reset the comfort floor to a new level. Or they go numb. They stop calculating. They stop projecting because the math is too uncomfortable to look at. Neither of those is a financial strategy. Both of them are a way of staying asleep inside a cage that keeps getting bigger and more expensive to maintain. Here is the 7-day dopamine detox for your wallet, and I need you to understand this is not deprivation. It is recalibration. For 7 days, implement a single rule, a 24-hour delay on every non-essential purchase. Not forever, just 24 hours. What this does neurologically is interrupt the checkout dopamine hit. Your brain learns over days that the craving and the purchase are separate events. The desire dissolves faster than you think. By day 4, you will notice something strange. Things you were certain you needed will stop feeling urgent. Not through willpower, because you interrupted the automated sequence your brain had been running on. Pair this with one non-negotiable commitment. Before your next paycheck hits your checking account, move 20% into a separate investment account. Not after expenses. Before. This is what behavioral economists call pre-commitment. You remove the decision entirely from the domain where your dopamine-chasing brain operates. Now, the salary secret. The one question to ask your boss at your next compensation conversation. Not, can I have a raise? But, what would make this role worth significantly more to you, and what would I need to demonstrate to unlock that? That question does something a raise request never does. It forces a conversation about your value output, not your comfort needs. High earners don't negotiate salary. They negotiate the conditions for wealth-building momentum. The difference between those two conversations is worth years of financial runway. Financial discipline is not the absence of enjoyment. It is the refusal to let a neurochemical reflex dictate the trajectory of your life. The wealth building that actually lasts is not built on a higher salary. It is built on the gap between what you earn and what you allow your brain to automatically consume. That gap is where net worth is built. That gap is where options are built. That gap is where the decade of freedom that person B has and person A spent lives. The moderate earner who invests aggressively isn't smarter, isn't luckier. They just stopped upgrading the cage and started building the door. Stop being a consumer with income. Start being a builder with a strategy. That is the only identity shift that actually changes the number in the bottom right corner of your personal finance equation. Subscribe because next week we go into the specific investment education framework that turns a 22% savings rate into a decade-early retirement. And that math is going to change how you look at every paycheck you ever earn.